I already got a lovely introduction, but just to go over it one more time, I am the food blogger behind A Duck's Oven. I love to chat on Instagram, so I've got Instagram handles up here too. I'm also the director of marketing for Best of Precision and the cookbook author of Everyday Sous Vide. So as discussed a little bit already, we're going to be going over all things chicken today. So again, this is not the typical protein that we think of when we think of sous vide. We typically think of steak because sous vide is great for precision cooking. And chicken, we usually don't care how well it's cooked. I mean, you and I probably all do because we care about these things a lot. But the average person just thinks of chicken as something really easy because, hey, if you dry it out, you dry it out. But that's not how we think of it. Today, we're going to be doing a whole chicken, bones and skin on chicken thighs, and boneless, skinless chicken breasts. You guys are going to have to bear with me while I try to narrate this, but it's going to be fine. So I chose these cuts to kind of show you the versatility and range of cooking sous vide chicken. Because these are wildly different cuts. We treat them way differently when we're just traditionally cooking them at home. So we are going to be cooking everything at 150 degrees Fahrenheit today. I know that you all are going to have a lot of opinions on this. So I know a lot of folks who like to go as low as 145 or as high as 155. I was doing 155 for a bit, but I've settled on 150 because it's not dry and it has a really similar texture to oven roasted chicken, which is what I like. However, a lot of people love the texture of 145. So today we're cooking with the Best of Precision Immersa Elite. It's my personal favorite immersion circulator. I love the big screen. I love the unusual shape. It makes it really easy to fit in my drawer. And it's just my favorite. It's my go-to. It's the one that's working downstairs in my kitchen. We're also using the vertical vac, which is a chamber vacuum sealer. Typically, I have it standing up in a different part of my kitchen, but for today's video, this is where I put it so you could kind of see what I was doing. But a chamber vacuum sealer is awesome for liquid heavy recipes if you're not familiar. So I use it today to do a buttermilk brined bone-in skin on chicken thigh. So we're going to start off with our demo though with the whole chicken, which I'm curious in the comments, how many of you have done a whole chicken sous vide? Let's see. Okay. Oh, and thank you for the lovely feedback. I really appreciate you guys. So the way I do a whole chicken sous vide is I spatchcock it first, and that way it can lay nice and flat, and you can do it and cook it really evenly. So, and then one point that I'll touch on really quick, I think that roasted chicken as an easy thing for home cooks is a total myth. And the reason is you almost always undercook it or overcook it. It's really hard to nail that temperature. And when you're trying to do this show-stopping dish, that sucks. So I know I always undercook it, throw it back in the oven, and then end up overcooking it, which is not great either. So doing it sous vide eliminates all of those possibilities for us. It just means that we're going to cook it really, really well. All right, sorry, I'm trying to scroll through the comments to keep them live as I'm talking. So we're going to spatchcock this live together. You guys are missing it because it's part of the audio recording, but I mess up saying spatchcock like 1,000 times, and I'm hoping that you're all with me on that. But you'll see that later if you watch the audio playback. So when I spatchcock a chicken, admittedly, I feel like I'm not very good at this, but I did it very easily in this video, so I think I need to stop giving myself so much crap for it. I use a paring knife or really sharp kitchen shears. Kitchen shears are my favorite way to do it. I just find it to be a lot easier than using a paring knife. So the way you spatchcock a chicken is you're just going to cut out the backbone. So you cut down either side of the backbone, as you can see me struggling to do here. And you might need to use two hands a couple times. I find myself doing that just to break through those ribs because that's essentially what you're doing there. So once you've got that backbone all the way cut through, just like that, set that thing off to the side. I always save these scraps for a stock. They're one of my favorite things to make a stock. See, sorry, I'm keeping live on the comments while we're going. Oh, just wait, we're gonna vacuum seal it. But I actually use a different sealer for this one. So I always trim off all of the fat and skin around the cavity too. And then you just want to make sure you get all the organs and gizzards out of there too. So then you have to in order to truly spatchcock it, you need to break the breastbone, which can be really tricky. My method is not sound. I usually do a mix of stabbing it and cutting it with the kitchen shears. Not recommended. Please do it a safer way than me. But I find it works really, really well for me. And so then once that breastbone is broken, it allows you to flip the chicken over and lay it really, really nice and flat. And so again, the reason we want it to be flat is so we have plenty of surface area for a really even cook. It's going to be way better than if you just did it whole. Let's see. Okay, so for this one, I actually just use salt and pepper to season. And the reason being I wanted versatility for it. I knew I wasn't going to eat it that day. I was going to throw it in my freezer. So then when I pull it out and cook it, I can just cook it however I want to. I can use whatever seasonings that I want to. So I really, really like to do salt and pepper. This is a great way to do it too. I feel like grocery stores always have deals like buy one chicken, get one half off or get one free or something like that. So if you want to prep one to throw in the freezer, just do some easy salt and pepper. And I like to season, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of feelings about this too, but I season before freezing. And that way I can just pull it from the freezer, put it right in the sous vide. I don't have to like unpack it and repackage it again. And I haven't had any problems with it. I'm just going to keep doing it. So when I season a whole chicken, I do it really, really liberally because there are going to be parts that don't get a lot of seasoning, but since we are doing it in this method, everything's going to kind of commingle and season the chicken really, really well. So just season it super thoroughly. I am a big fan of kosher salt. I use it in all my cooking, but yeah, and then season really, really well with salt and pepper too. Or I'm sorry, with pepper too. Okay, doing a quick comment check-in. You guys are funny. Yeah, Costco chickens at 99 cents a pound. Seriously, just like buy a couple and have them ready to go in your freezer. As I think Darren maybe mentioned earlier, sous videing and then finishing on the smoker. I love to do a couple just like with my favorite barbecue seasoning, throw it in the freezer, do this, and then finish it on the smoker. Okay, so for this, I'm actually going to use just a standard vacuum sealer. So this is the Vesta Precision Vacuum Seal. It's a really compact, powerful vacuum sealer. It's kind of my favorite go-to. And I really like how small it is because it's easy to store in my kitchen drawers. Yay, thank you, Darren. I appreciate you. Okay, so one of my favorite tips for getting something large in a bag, this is a 10-inch wide bag, and I made a bag from a roll. So I roll down the sides of the bag, so that way I'm not getting like chicken juices and seasonings and stuff at the top of the bag where I want to make sure I have that really good seal. I don't want anything to possibly interrupt that seal. So I roll down the top, get it in there, and it just makes it easier to get it all the way in there too. And then there you go, I got it in a bag. I promise you it's not as hard as it looks. And then just vacuum seal. I have no idea what I'm saying right now. I wish I could tell you. Oh, I know what I was saying. I use the moist setting when I do a whole chicken, just because even though in theory there's no moisture, it seems like chickens always carry a little moisture. So I do that just for safety. And so here you can see vacuum sealed. It's still got that great surface area, so we know we're going to get a really, really even cook. Let's see. Oh, yeah, the expandable bags. You're right, with the edges, which actually Vesta Precision has some of those. I should have thought to use it for this, but I didn't. So I like to do 4 to 6 hours for my whole chickens. I would not do less than 4. I typically do about 5. All right, so moving on to boneless, skinless chicken breasts. So I do this essentially as a meal prep hack. I actually talked about this on Instagram this morning. I just do a bunch at the beginning of the week, and then I have them easy protein ready to throw into lunches, add a little protein to dinners throughout the week, all that stuff. So I love boneless, skinless chicken breasts for that. And when you cook them sous vide, they're just going to be perfectly cooked all the way through. And you don't have to do, like I have it done for the entire week. It's so nice and easy. Let's see. Okay, so we're talking seasoning now. So I love to just use a simple seasoning blend for this. I'm using Primal Palate's adobo seasoning, which is great. It has salt, pepper, garlic, onion. It's one of my go-tos for boneless, skinless chicken breasts. Yep, our Vesta bags are available off Amazon. You are correct about that. I have never had an issue with the bones puncturing the chicken when sealing a spatchcock chicken. Never been an issue. I've never needed to double seal either. Usually it's fine in one go. You could if you were paranoid though, but I haven't had any issues with it breaking. And you can immediately tell if it's popped in any way, because it won't seal all the way. So you can tell immediately. And here we go. We're talking about pre-made bags. So for the boneless, skinless chicken breast here, I am going to use the chamber vacuum sealer just to kind of show you how it works. It's not needed at all in this case since it's a dry cook, but it's my favorite. Honestly, it's just so nice and easy to use because the chamber vac lives on my counter. And so all I have to do is grab a bag, throw it in. I'm not getting anything out, putting anything away. I sound so lazy right now. It's just so easy. So I use it. It's what my go-to vacuum sealer. And then quick Instagram check while it seals. If any of you are like me and use Instagram way too much. And there you go. You can see that seal with the chamber vacuum sealer. It's wildly easy to use. It's my favorite. So I do 2 hours and I never do longer than 4. I have had issues with the texture of chicken breasts after 4 hours. It's not great. So I would never go longer than 4. And then one of my little favorite things to do, if I'm not going to cook it right then, if I'm just doing meal prepping a bunch of chicken breasts at once, just write on the top in Sharpie what it is, throw it in my freezer. And then when I cook from frozen, I typically add about 20 to 30 minutes to the cooking time, like 2.5 hours or so. Okay, so now we're doing bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs. So this is like my favorite chicken cut. I'm sure a lot of you feel similarly. And my favorite thing to do with them is to do sous vide fried chicken, which can you guys tell me, have you done sous vide fried chicken before? I'm just curious. So in the meantime, I love doing my fried chicken this way because you know it's going to be cooked all the way through. So you don't usually get that with fried chicken. It cooks so quickly on the outside that a lot of times the inside doesn't actually have a chance to cook all the way through. So this method is perfect because you're going to cook it all the way through first, just give it a really quick flash fry, and it's ready to go. I also love it because I've found that, I love your comments. I've found that the texture is way better than traditional fried chicken. It just pulls away from the bone so much easier. As you guys said, it's so juicy. I think the flavor is even better. It's like more chickeny. Once you try it this way, you'll never go back. I made it for my family this week. I made this and they were like, this is the best fried chicken I've ever had. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. So you can either, one thing I'm talking about here, you can just throw your salt directly into the bag and kind of mix it up with the buttermilk. I like to season each thigh individually just to kind of make sure I'm getting them really well seasoned. But if you want to be lazy and just throw it in the bag, nobody's going to judge you for it. So I've seasoned every single chicken thigh and washing my hands again. And then I don't use a ton of buttermilk here. It's not necessary to go crazy with the buttermilk. I just use enough to cover it. And then with like a little bit extra going in the bag. But you don't need to go crazy with the buttermilk here. And so this is where the chamber vacuum sealer is so nice because it can vacuum seal really, really liquid heavy dishes. I used it to make sous vide risotto before. It also has a marinade function. So it actually like massages your marinade into the meat and it cuts down on your marinade time, which is really, really cool. So you can do it for as short as 18 minutes and it'll help you out in a time-saving crunch. So this is what it looks like when it's vacuum sealed. It's completely vacuum sealed with all that liquid in it, which is pretty incredible. So it's really great for like even risottos, pastas, anything like that. It doesn't get messy in the chamber sealer. So literally no liquid comes out. It just is all contained. So it uses essentially the way I think of it, I'm not going to say this correctly. It uses pressure instead of suction to remove the air. So it's not sucking anything out. So that's why you can do all these really, really liquid heavy dishes. See. Sorry, I'm looking at all your comments. So I, again, do these for about 2 hours or so, and then do a quick fry when they're done. But here I'm talking about all the different ways you could finish off chicken. You could finish it on the smoker. You could finish it under the broiler really quick. A lot of times I'll finish it in my cast iron, something really, really simple like that. But there's 1,000 different ways you could finish it. You could even just do like lemons and herbs in the bag. And then one of my favorite meal prep hacks is to do a big batch of chicken thighs at the beginning of the week, just refrigerate the bag. And then I just finish to serve as we need a lunch or dinner throughout the week. So I pull them out and sear them in the cast iron skillet. And that actually is it. So this is me wrapping up. And I'm going to go back to live now. Okay. Can you guys see me live now? Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna answer a few of the questions that was in here. So do you chill it before frying? You can, but you also don't have to. If you're concerned about overcooking the chicken, which, I typically am, a quick chill is nice. So for these, I actually had them in the fridge for like 3 days and then finished them off by frying. So you can, but you don't totally have to. For the thighs, I do 150, but I know a lot of people like to do their dark meat at a lower temperature. So like 145, but I like 150. Gives the same vacuum seals. Let's see. Sorry, I'm looking through all your questions really quick. Yeah, so if you don't have a chamber vacuum sealer, what you want to do is use the water displacement method. So typically what that means is put everything in a gallon-size Ziploc baggie. You're going to seal it all the way except for a little corner, and then submerge as much as you can without submerging the seal in the water, and that forces air out of the bag. So that's what you want to do if you don't have a chamber vac. A lot of people also just use like their arms to like squeeze all the air out, which I've seen work really, really well. I do have pictures of the final product, but unfortunately that's not going to be working today, but I'll send out links that Mike can share afterwards. Okay, so for somebody asked about a health inspector, I'm a home cook. I have worked quite a bit in restaurants, but yeah, so for chicken, 150 tends to be my go-to, which is not the suggested 165, but you know what? Most meats are suggested a lot higher than I know that we sous vide people cook them at. Let's see. Best of chamber vacuum sealer. Yep, dark at 150. 150 is kind of my favorite thing. Batter sticks, batter chicken. Okay, so no, I didn't say how I finished the whole chicken. Thank you for bringing that back. So typically what I do is either I'll do like almost like a flash roast is what I kind of like to call it, at a really high heat, so like 450. And so when I do that, I am maybe cooking it from room temperature. So I'll take it out of the fridge, leave it on my counter for about a half hour, and then pop it in the oven. So I do that to get the skin crispy and then reheat it all the way through. If I'm cooking it from cold, I'll do it at a lower temperature, about 425 for about a half hour, just until the skin is crisp. And again, it's warmed all the way through. And then another way I love to do it is on the smoker. So if you guys have a smoker, finishing your whole chicken on the smoker is so, 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 so good. If you are finishing it directly from the sous vide bath, I either put it right under the broiler, because all I'm looking to do then is just crisp the skin. It's still hot. Or if you have a big enough cast iron skillet, just finish it on your cast iron skillet, again, to get that the skin nice and crispy. Let's see. I have done chicken wings. I'm going to be controversial. So one of my things, I don't believe in using a gadget for the sake of using it. And I did sous vide chicken wings, and I just didn't find them to be significantly better than other methods of cooking chicken wings. So I don't keep doing them. My actual favorite way is to do oven roasted chicken wings. I've done them in air fryer, obviously traditionally fried, sous vide. My favorite is for like my husband and I, because we'll sit down and eat like 35 wings together, is just to do oven roasted. And then we don't find it to be a massive difference from frying it. Obviously there's a difference, and I love a fried chicken wing. But just in terms of like heart health, I'll just oven roast them, and that's our favorite way to do it. Let's see. Frozen full chicken. So I don't thaw. So if I directly freeze any of the cuts I just showed you, I don't bother with thawing. I just up my cook time. So for a whole chicken, I would probably up it by about 30 minutes to an hour. You've got some flexibility there. So I said in the talk to do it for about 4 to 6 hours. I would just go for the full 6. And I don't worry about thawing it. The sous vide bath is going to do that for me. And with breasts, I just add about 20 to 30 minutes. And for thighs, I would just add about 30 minutes. And it's going to be completely cooked all the way through. Sous vide gives us so much flexibility, which is awesome.
Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea Cole, and I'm really excited to welcome you to my kitchen here today in Portland, Oregon. I am the food blogger behind A Duck's Oven and the director of marketing for Vesta Precision, and I'm also the author of the cookbook Everyday Sous Vide, It's All French to Me. So today we are going to be talking all things sous vide and chicken, which I am really excited to do today. When we think of sous vide, we don't typically think about using it to cook chicken. It's typically used for things that you want to have a little bit more control over the temperature of, like a steak, as we all know. However, it's an awesome resource for cooking chicken, one for ease, and two, to make sure you cook it as well as you possibly can, just like anything else. So today we are going to be doing 3 different cuts of chicken. We're going to be doing a whole chicken, bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs, and boneless, skinless chicken breasts. I chose these three cuts just to show you the range of how great sous vide is with chicken. I am going to be cooking them all at the same temperature today just for the ease of use. However, obviously some cuts are going to be better cooked at different temperatures. I'm sure a lot of you have different opinions and feelings about this, but I love 150 degrees for my chicken. 150 degrees Fahrenheit, I should specify. I know a lot of people who prefer cooler temperatures, who do like 145 for their chicken, and others who prefer higher, like around 155. I really like 150 because I find that it is not at all dry, but still has a really similar texture to what we consider to be traditional oven roasted chicken. So I've got my water bath set up here. It's set up with my Vesta Precision Immerset Elite. You can kind of notice the different shape on this machine. I love it because it fits nice and easily into my drawer, and look how pretty that front panel is. I can see it from across the room, which is really nice when I'm cooking and I just want to go sit on the couch. We're also going to be using the Vesta Precision Vertical Vac today, which is this machine right here. It's called the Vertical Vac because usually it's standing up, but for the purposes of these angles, I chose to lay it down. This is a chamber vacuum sealer. That's really awesome, especially for vacuum sealing anything that's liquid heavy. So you can get an idea of how that works with our buttermilk marinated chicken thighs today. All right, so let's get started. I figured we'd dive on in with the hardest supposedly cut, or at least so it would seem, a whole chicken. So this is very uncommon for sous vide, in part because the idea of just getting it in the bag seems very challenging, but it is really, really amazing when done sous vide. So I think that the idea that a roasted chicken is the perfect dish for home cooks to try is a myth. And the reason being, when you do cook a chicken roasted in the oven, half the time you are going to way over crisp the outside before the inside is done. It's hard to know when the chicken is done. I know that I always undercook mine, throw it back in the oven, and then end up overcooking it. And a lot of times in the process of getting it all the way cooked, maybe the breast meat will be perfectly done, but the dark meat is gonna be way, way overdone. So sous vide is a great application for cooking a whole chicken, and it makes things so, so much easier. So I start by spatchcocking the chicken, which means removing the backbone so it can lay nice and flat. And this just means I can cook it a little bit more quickly. So I usually cook my chickens for about 5 to 6 hours. And since it can lay a little bit flatter, I know that that's enough time. Okay, so let's spatchcock let's spatchcock this chicken together. I am still not great at this. You'd think I would have mastered it by now, but I definitely have not. So bear with me as we cut the backbone out of this chicken. You can use a paring knife. I like to use a pair of really sharp kitchen shears, but you do what works for you. So you're just gonna cut along the sides of the backbone, just like this. Might need to get both hands in there to cut through the ribs, just like I'm doing now. Oh man, that actually went very well. I shouldn't have given myself so much crap. Let's see if it goes as well on this next side. Okay, not bad if I do say so myself. So just cut out the backbone. So if you're like me, you can save that backbone for later for making a stock, and same thing with any of the scraps that you end up cutting out. So now I'm going to remove any of the gizzards that were left behind. I scooped most of them out already, and I'm just gonna trim up the skin and fat around the cavity of the chicken. Okay, so now what you're gonna wanna do is break the breastbone, which I always find to be very, very difficult. Again, this is where a sharp knife might come in handy. I take a dangerous approach and just kind of stab it with my kitchen shears, but that's not recommended. So let's do this thing. Okay, so now I've broken that breastbone. right here, which means it can just lay completely flat. So I'm gonna show you what that looks like. We're gonna flip it over and look at that. So now that bird is nice and flat. I am going to wash my hands and then we'll season. All right, so now let's season this bird. So for this application, I am just doing salt and pepper, and the reason being I'm probably gonna end up throwing this in my freezer and finishing this at a later date. And so it's something simple like salt and pepper. I can finish it however I'd like. And so this is a great, if you buy, say, I know a lot of times at the store, it's like buy one chicken, get the other free. So what you can do is spatchcock it, season it simply, vacuum seal it, and then freeze it, and then you've got it ready to throw in the sous vide at any time. Another one of my favorite ways to finish a whole chicken is on the smoker. So you could go with a nice barbecue seasoning here and then finish it on the smoker. If you're going for a more traditional roasted chicken, a few lemon slices in the bag when you vacuum seal is a great way to impart some flavor during the cook, and then have it ready to go when you're gonna throw it in the oven to finish it off later too. All right, so let's get seasoning. So I like to season pretty liberally. So just really making sure that there's salt in all of the nooks and crannies. And that includes getting under the skin on the breasts. This container of pepper is nearly empty. I'm just gonna toss it when we're done so I don't feel bad about not washing my hands in between. Otherwise, I'm an avid hand washer. And then flip it over. And salt nice and liberally again. Okay, now she's ready to seal. So for this one, I'm actually just going to use our vac and seal. It's a really nice, small, simple, sleek machine. So this is just a really great, reliable vacuum sealer. And since it is so compact, it's really easy to store. Okay, so admittedly, the tricky part here is fitting the bird in this bag. It is not elegant. It's not going to be pretty, but it's gonna be fine. It does fit. This is a 10-inch wide bag that I made from a roll, and I made it a little bit long just to give me some extra space. I might end up trimming it a little once it's in there. So one trick, I like to roll down the sides of the bag, and that just makes it a little bit easier as I'm trying to squeeze it in there, and it prevents me from getting too much liquid and gunk near the top of the bag where I want a really good seal. Okay, it's in there. Now it's time to seal. Okay, so I'm going to vacuum seal on the moist setting because even though in theory this chicken is dry, it seems like there's always some extra moisture in the bag. Okay, so here is our spatchcock chicken completely sealed. And you can see it's laying nice and flat, so we've got really good surface area, so our cook doesn't have to be too long. You could really cook this for as short as 4 hours. I probably wouldn't do it for any less, but honestly, I haven't tried, so if you do, let me know. Okay, so now I'm gonna throw her in the water bath, so she's gonna cook at 150 for 4 to 6 hours. Okay, let's switch things up and do some boneless, skinless chicken breasts. So these are hated by chefs, loved by home cooks. I love doing boneless, skinless chicken breast sous vide at the beginning of the week as a meal prep hack. So easy, I season them, seal them, throw them in the bath, and then that's it. So usually what I do once they're out of the bath is I'll do a quick sear or pan fry, maybe not even do that, and then just chop them up, and I have chopped chicken in the fridge ready to go for quick and easy lunches, something to add some protein into dinners like a pasta throughout the week, something nice and simple. So this is fantastic way to make your life a little bit easier. So when I do boneless, skinless chicken breasts, I like to usually do some kind of seasoning blend. You could make one yourself, or you could just call it a day and use one that's pre-done for you. For the purposes of today, I'm using Primal Palate's adobo seasoning. It's one of my favorites. It's got a little pink Himalayan sea salt. It's got some turmeric, some garlic, some onion. It's a really great solid spice blend. Okay, so for the chicken breasts, I am going to use the chamber vac. Not because I need to, this is not liquid heavy, but frankly, it's just so easy. This lives on my countertop, usually in a different spot than for our video purposes today, but it's so easy to use. I don't have to bring anything out. I've got these pre-made bags that make it nice and easy. All right, so let's throw these guys in the bag. Wash my hands again. All right, so to use the chamber vacuum sealer, I've already got it on. So I'm just gonna take these. So if I had it standing up straight, our bags have these little punch holes in them, so you can hang them from hooks that are in there. But I have it laying down for now. You can use it in either way. Make sure it's secured, and then you just shut the door and it does its thing. Okay, they are done. So here's what they look like out of the chamber vacuum sealer, and then they're gonna go in the water bath, also at 150. I like to do chicken breasts for about 2 hours. I never go longer than 4, otherwise the texture starts to change and they become a little bit stringy. So 2 hours is my goal, but somewhere around there works. If you're doing some batch meal prepping, I always just write what I seasoned it with at the top and the date, and then throw it in my freezer, and then it can go straight from the freezer like this into your sous vide without defrosting. If I do that, I typically just add an extra 20 minutes to a half hour. Okay, so our last method today, we are going to do bone-in skin-on chicken thighs, and I am preparing them for one of my favorite sous vide dishes, which is sous vide fried chicken. If you haven't done sous vide fried chicken yet, as soon as you do, it's gonna become your favorite sous vide dish as well. I love it because you can guarantee that the chicken is gonna be cooked all the way through. So when you go to fry it, you aren't worried that you're gonna totally overcook the outside while trying to get it cooked through on the inside. Frying is such a quick cooking method that it so often doesn't actually cook the chicken all the way through. And so for this, it's foolproof. And the texture is so much better. One thing I love about doing sous vide chicken in general is how much more chickeny the chicken is when you cook it this way. So the flavor is so much better, the texture is so much better, it's just better. So let's do this. So again, I'm gonna be using the chamber vacuum sealer for this since it is liquid heavy. And so I've got my bag ready here. And then what I'm gonna do is just liberally season each thigh with kosher salt. So you could just add kosher salt to the bag and mix it up with the buttermilk, but I like to season each piece just to make sure it gets plenty of salt on it. Okay, so now we're gonna add these to our bag. And wash our hands again. And then we're just gonna pour buttermilk over the thighs. You don't really need like a ton of buttermilk by any means. Just enough so that they're covered. Okay, so these are now gonna go in the vertical vac. The vertical vac actually also does have a marinade function. So if I had all the time in the world during this demonstration, I would probably also use that. And you can set it for as short as like 18 minutes or so. And it expedites your marinating process because it kind of massages the marinade into the meat. It's really cool. Okay, here it is out of the chamber vac. This, again, you can see that this is the coolest thing about the chamber vac. It is vacuum sealed with all that liquid inside, which makes it really great for doing like sous vide risotto or any type of sous vide rice dish or pasta dish where you need a lot of liquid in there. So now that this is all done, I'm going to throw it into the water bath, and I like to do 150 for about 2 hours. So I'm gonna finish these thighs by frying them, but you could finish them in the oven. I would just do it under the broiler, especially with that buttermilk marinade. It's gonna be fantastic if you wanna finish it in the oven, or if you wanna do these with a different type of seasoning, skip the buttermilk, do some kind of barbecue seasoning. Again, you could finish on the smoker. You could go with a more traditional route like we talked about earlier with some lemon and herbs and add those to the bag as well, and then finish in the oven. There are tons of possibilities. One of my favorite ways to do chicken thighs is to do a big batch of them, seasoned really simply, put them in the fridge without finishing them, and then throughout the week I can just pull a chicken thigh out, finish it in my cast iron skillet, and then have it for lunch or dinner. Really, really easy. Thank you so much for joining me today as we talked all things sous vide chicken. I'm going to be around for questions, so please ask away and I'll be here to answer them. If you want to hang out for longer past this event, I would love that. I'm super active on Instagram. My Instagram handle is A Duck's Oven. My blog is called A Duck's Oven because I went to the University of Oregon, whose mascot is the ducks, and I actually started my blog way back in the day when I was in college. So follow me on A Duck's Oven. Also follow Vesta Precision. We're there to answer questions at any time, and I look forward to talking with you more.